then I have a shutter card to show you, which looks like this. Very fun, and it's using an Artful card kit plus dazzles plus, of course, this fun shutter. So if you are intrigued and want to try to make this card, please stay tuned. Today I'll be using the Honeysuckle Artful card kit plus matching ribbons, the shutter folding card. This is a die cut card, and the set comes with 5. And a sheet of Tiny Words and Phrases dazzles. Now these are silver, however I'm going to be using black in my video. I just don't have black ones to show, sorry about that. But you can find them on paperwishes.com and in the product bundle image. So those are the Tiny Words and Phrases. Alright, so now that I got that out of the way, let's get started. So here is the blank card, and you can see the score lines on it. It also has these tiny strips in between the 2 sections, and that's to kind of separate the sections so that they don't brush up against each other when you're opening and closing the card. So what I like to do is to just take my X-Acto knife and cut where they are connected here on this end, and then just kind of pull up. And if there's any other places you need to slice through, go ahead and do that too. And then I will have a clean card ready to start and decorate. So the package insert for these cards has on the back patterns that will fit your card perfectly. There will be a little bit of a white border around it, but they suggest photocopying this, and that way you'll have enough copies to cut out so you don't have to trace and then cut and then trace again and cut. But I'm going to show you a way that you can do it if you want without a pattern, just by tracing it. So the first thing I'm going to do is fold up my card. This first crease I'm going to make a mountain fold, so called because it points up at me like a mountain. And these top and bottom short sections will also be mountain folds. Now on the center large strip here, this second score line will be a valley fold, and then the third score line will be a mountain fold, and these 2 will be valley folds. So here's a quick look from the top, and just kind of put it together sort of like an accordion, and then use your fingernail, or if you have a bone folder, also works quite nicely to sharpen those creases. And there you have the assembled card. So I have my pattern paper, ignore the parts that I already cut out, but I have the paper I want to cover the front of my card with. So it's going to be this kind of a C shape. So turn your paper to the back, place that surface that you want to cover face down. I'm actually going to turn it so that there's a corner, matching a corner of the paper, and line it up with the edges carefully. Okay, so then you're going to hold here in this kind of open position and just trace with a pencil. Okay, so now I have the shape that I want to cut out, and that should fit perfectly on the front of my card. Now if you want to have that white border around the edges, you can cut just inside all of your lines, and that will create your white border. But I'm going to go ahead and cover this completely, so I'm going to leave it as is and cut it out. Alright, so you can see that this has covered the panel perfectly, And the next panel I want to cover is this big kind of almost a square panel from the inside. And that's going to be a little more tricky because it's harder to kind of fit on your paper. But I'm going to show you something that makes it easier is if you take the edge of your paper, and this is the red paper, and just place the valley fold straight down on that edge. You just line it up with the end of your paper, so you only really have to trace 2 lines, a vertical and a horizontal line. If you want to make it slightly larger, then you can trim exactly later and you won't have to worry about it being too small, which is not really fixable, and you kind of have to start over again. So just kind of hold this down, trace that line, and let go, and you'll have a perfect shape that fits right there. Alright, so I'm going to do the remaining panels the same way. Just placing your sheet of paper pattern side down, placing the item that you want to cover right on the edge, trace around and cut. And it's up to you whether or not you want to cover these inside panels. You can leave them blank because when you look at it from the front you don't really see them, but you do if you open the card all the way. So I'm going to go ahead and cover them, but it's up to you what you want to do. I'm going to cover this with the gray here, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I just made an error in my measuring and I wanted to share that with you guys. Here's my finished shape. While it does fit, the top has a white margin and the bottom has a hangover. Has a little bit hanging over on the back. So I need to, what I did was I traced it like this, but what I need to do is trace it on the front of the gray because this will end up being exactly on here. So if that makes sense, I'm going to go ahead and redo that piece. Okay, so there is my fixed piece. And I'm going to go ahead and cover these. Now for the rectangles, I find it easier to simply use a ruler to measure the length and width of each and then just cut out those corresponding measured rectangles to glue them on instead of having to trace everything. So I'm going to go ahead and do the measuring technique, which you can also do with these. I just find the tracing easier for the larger shapes. Alright, now I'm going to be right back when I am done covering the rest of my surfaces. Oh, and one other tip is to stay a little bit away from the inner folds because you don't want your paper buckling when you fold the card. Okay, so now that I have all the surfaces of my card completely covered, I'm going to go ahead and take some of the die cuts in the Honeysuckle Artful card kit and start arranging them on my card with some of my dazzles. Okay, so just to go over what I've done so far, I've placed some dazzles on these 2 die cuts and glued them to this inner panel. And the pink one is going off the edge just a bit, but it will still fit in the card envelope. This is a die cut that's been foam taped, and right here just a little bow of the green crepe from the Honeysuckle ribbon set. And then along the top and bottom, I've glued a chartreuse strip. This is about a little over a ½ inch wide on both the top and the bottom. And what I'm going to do is place this hexagon border over towards the top. But first I want to weave it with some of the ribbon, which will give it a really neat look. So basically just cut your ribbon at an angle and weave it in and out. It's super easy to do, so the holes are pretty big, until you've got enough length to go across the top of the card. And once it's all woven in there, you can place a zot on the back of it to hold it in place. And for the top row, I'm going to use this black and pink stitched ribbon. And then, so you just trim the ribbon as necessary. Attach the ends to the back of the piece with some dots, and then you can go ahead and glue it to the card. So here's the finished border across the top of my card, and I just attached it with some dots on the back. And I cut the ribbon and the trim flush with the edges of the card. So my card front is pretty much finished, and here's the look as I open the card. So I'm going to add maybe a couple more things to the inside and some on this panel here, and then I will be finished. Alright, so here is my finished card. I have added this hexagon border along the bottom of the inner panel, and it just so happened that just trimming this piece off of this border left just enough to add some to the back panel here. And I added this die cut tag, and I placed the happy birthday from the Tiny Words and Phrases Dazzles on there, and a few more die cut flowers on the back. And as you can see, it all looks pretty cohesive, and I kind of like that the Make-A-Wish little banner is sticking out there. I think that's pretty fun. Alright, so that brings us to the end of our tutorial. Please stay tuned for this week's bundle offering, and I will see you again next week. So first in the bundle I have the pack of Shutter folding cards and envelopes. So there's 5 cards and envelopes in this pack, and on that package insert you'll see how it goes together. And on the back there's some of these template patterns that you can actually cut out and use to create the exact shapes to fit on your finished folded card. And there's some instructions on how to do that as well. So you will be getting the 5 cards and envelopes to match. Next we have the Honeysuckle Artful card kit, and this is how it comes brand new. It has 102 pieces in it. There are 3 sheets of die cuts, and there are 7 papers and a sheet of these cutouts, which some have greetings and some are blank, so you can customize them. But I love the patterns on this set. It's a really kind of hip and trendy set because it's got this hot pink and chartreuse and bright red against the gray and black textures. So I love how modern that looks, but still very beautiful. So there's some complementary patterns in here, some hot pink and some chartreuse and black and gray dots, and of course the star of the show would be the die cuts, which are awesome since they're heavyweight and they pop out super easily from the background. And they are all different shapes and sizes. As you can see, there's some bees and flowers as well as labels and frames, and a very cool border here and another one here. So lots of variety in that set. You're also going to get the matching honeysuckle ribbon set, and I believe there are 6 different ribbons in here, each a yard long. And last but not least, and don't be confused because I don't have the black ones with me, but you will be getting a sheet of black, not silver, Tiny Words and Phrases Dazzles, and they will have the same exact words and phrases, and you can see the black ones on the paperwishes.com website. But I don't have them with me right now, so that's why I'm showing you these. Alright, so those are the 4 items in today's bundle. Thanks you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next week.